We need to talk about what Brout, Pomban, and Gekkoa are going to evolve into, because I've been down the rabbit hole on this for days, and I am now convinced that these three cute little baby Pokemon are going to become some of the most ferocious final evolutions in Pokemon history. Here's what most people don't realize. Pokemon Winds and Waves is set in a Southeast Asian archipelago, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. And this region has some of the richest mythology on the planet. Ancient beasts that swallow the moon, fire wolves that hunt in packs, sea serpents that can cause tsunamis, and we start lining up the design clues in all three of these starters with the real world animals and mythological creatures of Southeast Asia, everything just clicks. I've dug through every fan theory, analyzed every Pokedex description, cross-referenced the animal inspirations, looked at the mythology, and I even found what might be a hint from the Pokemon account itself. Today, I am breaking down each and every starter one by one and giving you my final prediction for their evolutions. Let's get it. If you're like me and you're stoked about Pokemon Winds and Waves, don't you miss out. Hit that subscribe button right now. YouTube tells me that the majority of you guys watching my videos are not subscribed to the channel, so take a second, subscribe, that way you won't miss out on our epic Winds and Waves coverage. Let's kick this off with Brout, the grass-type bean chick Pokemon. 1 feet tall, 7.7 pounds, its official description says it runs about energetically while photosynthesizing using the leaves on its brow. It's lively, but it can also be a bit clumsy, and it's got the ability Overgrow, standard for starters. Right off the bat, its name is a mashup of Brow and Sprout. It's also a play on Bean Sprout, and the category Bean Chick is almost certainly a chickpea pun. Game Freak loves their wordplay and they're stacking layers here, but the real question is, what kind of bird is this thing gonna become? Because right now, Brout is giving baby chick energy. It's cute, it's round, it's grumpy with little leaf eyebrows, but the animal and mythology clues point in some wild directions. There are 5 real-world birds that fans have connected to Brout, and each one leads to a completely different evolution line. First, the Malay game chicken, one of the tallest chicken breeds in the world. Originating from the Malay Peninsula and Indonesia, it can stand over 3 feet tall with its powerful legs. If Brout goes this route, think of a massive grass and fighting rooster, a literal battle chicken. Secondly, the barred eagle owl of Indonesia. Brout's Japanese name actually hints at owl, according to fans who analyzed it, and its grumpy leaf eyebrows look remarkably like the barred eagle owl's facial disc feathers. This would push Brout towards a nocturnal direction, potentially grass and flying for the first time, or even grass and dark. Third, the kakapo, the world's only flightless nocturnal parrot, native to New Zealand but deeply tied to Maori folklore about predicting the future. If Brout evolves into a grounded, heavy bird, we could see grass and ground, or maybe even grass and psychic. Fourth, and this is the one that gets the community most hyped, the cassowary. Native to Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, cassowaries are some of the most dangerous birds alive. Flightless, incredibly strong legs, known to be aggressive, and honestly, they're the closest thing to a dinosaur in modern day. Imagine Brout going from this cute little chick to an absolute unit of a grass fighting or a grass ground cassowary. One fan even coined the name Cashewary, a cassowary crossed with a cashew. That's S-tier Pokemon naming, so I wouldn't be surprised they go that route. Fifth is you've got the Silky Chicken, or the Ayam Samani. Both are Southeast Asian chicken breeds with jet black flesh under their feathers. The Ayam Samani is literally called the Lamborghini of poultry. If Brout goes dark, literally, we could see a grass dark black rooster final evolution. Fans have also connected this to the Javanese folktale of Cinderlaras, which features a legendary fighting rooster. Now here's where things get epic with Brout. 2 massive mythology theories are competing right now. Theory 1, and this one had 2.7 million views from an Indonesian fan on X, Brout's final evolution is based on the Garuda. The Garuda is a national symbol of Indonesia. It's a mythical eagle-like bird from Hindu and Buddhist mythology, the mount of the god Vishnu. It's depicted as a massive, powerful golden eagle with divine wings. In this theory, Brout evolves from a clumsy little chick into a majestic grass flying eagle, or maybe even grass and steel, referencing the Garuda's metallic depictions in Indonesian art. Theory 2 comes from Filipino mythology, and this one went mega viral with hundreds of thousands of views. Brout's final form can be based on the Minokawa. The Minokawa is a dragon bird so large it can swallow the sun or moon. That's what causes eclipses in the folklore. And here's the wild detail. Every feather on the Minokawa's wings is described as a steel sword. Its eyes are mirrors that reflect light. That would make Brout's final evolution grass and steel. A terrifying blade-winged moon-eating bird. That's not cute anymore, that is a legendary design. And then there's this. The official Pokemon account on X replied to a fan's crocheted Brout with, "So quick," a lightning bolt and a green heart. Now, it's very likely this is nothing. It could just be a cute reply, the lightning bolt signifying the speed at which they created this crochet, but the Pokemon social media team is notoriously careful with emojis. A lightning bolt next to a grass starter? That screams grass electric. Nobody was even considering that typing until this happened. If Brout evolves into some kind of electric tropical bird, maybe a thunderbird of Southeast Asian storms, that would be completely unexpected and absolutely incredible. Unlikely, but we can't rule it out. So where do I land? My prediction for Brout's final evolution is grass and fighting or grass and steel. Here's my reasoning. The cassowary and the Malay game chicken connections are too strong for the Southeast Asian setting. Game Freak loves taking cute baby Pokemon and making them fierce, and a massive fighting rooster or an armored Garuda eagle is exactly the kind of glow up that makes people lose their minds. The Minokawa's steel sword feathers perfectly justify grass and steel, which would be a brand new typing for a starter Pokemon, and that makes it pretty tempting. But if that Thunderbolt emoji means what I think it means, grass electric could be the dark horse that nobody sees coming. I'm just not convinced that the social media team has that much knowledge in the future. Either way, Brout is gonna grow on you. It's growing on me a little bit. At first, I wasn't a big fan, but it's getting there for me. Pombon, the fire type puppy Pokemon. 1 foot, 4 inches, 14.8 pounds. The area below its throat glows faintly from the heat generating organ within its lungs. This Pokemon is guileless and friendly, and it of course has the ability Blaze. The name is clearly Pomeranian and Bon, as in bonfire or bonbon. It's an adorable fire puppy. The community immediately fell in love, but the question everyone is asking is, does Pombon stay cute, or does it get fierce and stand on 2 legs like every other fire starter that they ruin every generation? Are we really getting another fire and fighting starter again? The theory that has me most convinced is the Dole theory. The Dole is the only wild canine species that lives in Indonesia. Also called the Asian wild dog, the red dog, and honestly the best part is that in Vietnamese, it literally translates to fire wolf. Look at the connections. Doles have a rust red ginger colored coat that looks fiery in sunlight. They're literally called red dogs. They're described in wildlife literature as fiery hunters of the East. They hunt in organized packs with intense energy. And here's the kicker. Doles communicate by whistling. They're known as the whistling dog. Now look at Pombon's Pokedex entry again. Heat generating organ within its lungs. How do you whistle? By pushing air from your lungs out of your lips. Pombon generates fire from its lungs. Doles are fire wolves that whistle from their lungs. The connection is surgical. Imagine Pombon evolving from this fluffy little Pomeranian puppy into a sleek, fierce, fire-coated Dole, a pack hunter with flames erupting from its mane. That's a pretty good Pokemon design, and it fits perfect within Southeast Asia. The mythology side gives us 2 major options for Pombon. From Filipino mythology, the Arimanga. This is a beast from Marano legend that resembles a lion crossed with a tiger crossed with a dragon. The Marano people both feared and revered it. If Pombon's final form takes this route, we're looking at a terrifying fire dragon or fire dark beast that embodies raw primal power. From Balinese mythology, the Barong. The Barong is the king of evil spirits, a benevolent lion-like figure that fights against evil. In Bali, the Barong dance is one of the most iconic cultural performances. A fire fairy Barong-inspired Pombon would lean into Pombon's guileless and friendly personality, a loyal protector spirit. The fairy typing also connects to the Bonbon candy angle in Pombon's name, since fairy types love sweet motifs. There's even a colonial history angle. One fan pointed out that Pombon could also be inspired by the Kishan, the Dutch barge dog, or the Smiling Dutchman. The Netherlands colonized Malaysia and Indonesia starting in the 1600s. The Kishan looks strikingly similar to a large Pomeranian with that same fluffy mane. If Game Freak wove colonial history into the design, Pombon's mid-stage might reference the Kishan before its final form goes fully Southeast Asian. One wild theory is that Pombon could get divergent evolutions based on which version you play. Fire Fairy in one version representing the Barong, the benevolent Spirit King. Fire Dark in the other version representing Rangda, the Demon Queen who opposes the Barong. That would be the perfect version exclusive mechanic for a game called Winds and Waves, but seems pretty unlikely that they would do that with a starter. My prediction, Pombon evolves into a Fire Fairy final form. The Dole gives it the animal basis, fierce, red-coated, fire-associated wild dog. The Barong gives it the mythology, a protective lion spirit that's powerful but benevolent, matching Pombon's guileless and friendly personality. And Fire Fairy is a typing we haven't seen on a starter before. Game Freak loves breaking new ground with starter typings, and this just fits too perfectly to ignore. But honestly, Fire Dark based on the Arimanga is my backup. Either way, Pombon is going from cute puppy to something that'll make you think twice about calling it a lapdog. Gekwa, the water type water gecko Pokemon. 1 foot tall, 9.5 pounds, this Pokemon launches springy balls of water from its tail. Gekwa is very intelligent and maneuvers shrewdly while putting on airs. Its ability, of course, is Torrent. The name is obviously Gecko and Aqua. This was my starter pick out of the trio. It's a blue gecko with big eyes, a curled tail, and crucially, a teardrop-shaped marking between its eyes. That teardrop is the key to everything. But first, let's talk about some animal inspiration. The most likely real-world animal basis is the tokay gecko, which is native to Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand. I also watched this guy on TikTok who's always finding these tokay geckos, so I've actually heard of these before. It's one of the largest gecko species, and it's aggressive. Tokay geckos are known for their powerful bite and their loud, distinctive call. But here's what makes the tokay gecko perfect for a Pokemon. In Southeast Asia regional folklore, the tokay gecko has been attributed to supernatural powers. In Indonesia and Malaysia, it's considered a symbol of good luck and fertility. And this is huge. It's believed to be descended from dragons, baby. That's right, Southeast Asian folklore says geckos are baby dragons. If Gekwa's evolution follows this folklore, we are looking at a gecko that literally evolves into a dragon. The question is, what kind of dragon? The other animal connection is the Komodo dragon, the largest living lizard native to Indonesia. If Gekwa grows from a small gecko into a massive Komodo-inspired lizard, the design would be incredible. And since Komodo dragons are venomous, that could justify water poison typing. A lot of people don't realize that Komodo dragons can swim pretty well too, so don't write this one off. Now here's the theory that changed everything for me. Look at Gekwa's forehead, that water drop marking between its eyes. A fan pointed out with hundreds of thousands of views on socials that this isn't random. It resembles the Talaka or Bindu, the third eye symbol from South and Southeast Asian spirituality. In Hindu and Buddhist tradition, the third eye represents awareness, enlightenment, and higher consciousness. Now reread Gekwa's Pokedex entry. Very intelligent, maneuvers shrewdly, putting on airs. Every descriptor emphasizes intelligence, cunning, and a sense of superiority. That's not a brute force Pokemon, that's a psychic type Pokemon. If Gekwa's evolution follows a spiritual awakening arc from a clever little gecko to an enlightened, meditating water psychic sage dragon monster, that would be one of the most thematically rich starter evolutions Game Freak has ever created. Picture a final evolution that sits in a meditative pose, third eye glowing, water swirling around it like a mandala. That's peak Pokemon design. But listen, the mythology side pushes things in a different direction, and it's equally hype. The Bakunawa is a sea serpent from Filipino mythology that causes eclipses, storms, tidal waves, and earthquakes by rising from the ocean. A gecko that evolves into a massive sea dragon, maybe water and dragon typing, which is so good. And since the Minokawa, Brout's potential mythological basis, and the Arimanga, Pombon's basis, are also from Filipino mythology, all three starters could be based on the same mythological trilogy. That's an incredibly cohesive design philosophy and something we've seen precedent from previous Pokemon starter trios. There's also the Naga, the serpent deity found across all of Southeast Asian mythology. In Indonesia, Balinese, and Hindu tradition, Nagas are water guardians, shapeshifters, and keepers of sacred knowledge. A Naga-inspired Gekwa final form could be Water Dragon with wisdom themes woven into its design. A dragon that thinks before it strikes. One more option, some fans suggest Water Poison, arguing that geckos are baby dragons. Folklore is just a stepping stone to Gekwa becoming a Komodo dragon. Komodos are venomous, massive, and terrifying. It's a valid path, but I think it's the least likely because Water Poison doesn't feel like a flagship starter typing. My prediction is Gekwa's final evolution will be Water Dragon or Water Psychic. If Game Freak leans into the Bakunawa mythology from the descended from dragons gecko folklore, it'll be Water Dragon. If they lean into the third eye symbolism with the intelligence-focused Pokedex description, it's gonna be Water Psychic. Both would be incredible, but the leaked description said Gekwa's final Evo is the best looking one out of the trio, and a massive enlightened Water Dragon Sage with a glowing third eye would absolutely deliver on that promise. My gut says Water Psychic, my heart says Water Dragon. Either way, Gekwa is the one people are sleeping on right now, and I think it's gonna steal the show. I'm feeling real good about my starter choice out of the three, but I will say Pombon is growing on me, and if Brout becomes a cassowary, I might lose my mind. Now there's one more thing before we wrap this video up. The region itself tells us something about how Pokemon evolutions might work. Pokemon Winds and Waves is set in an archipelago, a chain of tropical islands. In real-world biology, archipelagos are famous for one thing: adaptive radiation. Charles Darwin literally developed the theory of evolution by studying finches across the Galapagos Islands. Different islands, different environments, different evolutionary paths for the same species. The same concept applies to the Wallace line, an invisible boundary running through Indonesia that separates the animals of Asia from the animals of Australasia. Alfred Russel Wallace discovered this while exploring the exact region that Winds and Waves is based on. Animals on one side of the line evolve completely differently from animals just miles away on the other side. If Game Freak built divergent or convergent evolutions into Gen 10 starters, where you play the same starter evolving differently depending on which version you play, or which islands you evolve it on, that would tie directly into the real-world scientific history of this region. We already saw hints of this with Legends Arceus and Legends ZA, giving starters split evolution paths. Imagine choosing Brout in Pokemon Winds and it evolves into a Grass and Steel Garuda, while the same Brout in Pokemon Waves evolves into a Grass and Fighting Cassowary. That would be groundbreaking, and it would make Winds versus Waves version choice matter more than any Pokemon game before. We don't know if that's happening, but the thematic setup is perfect for it, and with a 2027 release date, they've got more time in the kitchen to surprise us. Generation 10 is going to be special. These three starter Pokemon are sitting on some of the deepest design inspirations in Pokemon history: Southeast Asian mythology, real-world animal biology, possible divergent evolution mechanics, and Pokedex descriptions that are already dropping major hints. Tell me down below in the comments right now which of the three starters you're choosing and what type you hope it evolves into in its final stage. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more Pokemon Winds and Waves, updates, theories, and much more right here on the aDrive channel.